Richard Tice, who joins us now from his party conference in Birmingham. What was the main message you're trying to get across?
Good evening. Well, there's some very important messages that we will be getting across. Nigel's talked about taking the party to the next stage of professionalism and democratisation. We've got hundreds of branches being set up as we speak to get ready for the May county and unitary elections next year, and also changing the party structure so that members have a greater say in the leadership of the party. These are all sort of natural evolutions as the party grows and matures, but also we'll be putting out a message of confidence and hope in the face of a country that, frankly, is pretty ill at ease at itself. I mean, the fact that I have to confirm to you this evening that the suit I'm wearing I've paid for myself, frankly, tells you a lot about the state of British politics. We've got a Prime Minister who has taken more freebies and hospitality and gifts than any other 600 of the 650 MPs in the last 5 years by a factor of 2. And we've got millions of pensioners, including over 22,000 in my constituency of Boston and Skegness, who are furious, who are worried about how they're going to heat their homes with higher energy bills, the removal of the heating allowance, the winter fuel allowance, despite the fact that train drivers and many other public sector workers are being given huge increases without any forms of performance-related productivity improvements.
What are you calling for then? Because, I mean, it is important to say, look, yeah, these are gifts, hospitality, not taxpayer-funded. He has declared them in the correct way. There's no rules broken here. Do you think the rules should be changed?
But he literally stood on a platform of integrity and not having cronyism.
But my question is, should the rules be changed? Is that what you're asking for?
Look, declaring things is important, but if you're standing on a platform of not being subject to cronies, coming in and out of number 10, not being subject to let's say, indebtedness to people who've given you thousands of pounds worth of suits and frocks and free tickets to Taylor Swift concerts, to football matches. That's cronyism.
Point I'm asking. If you're saying it's cronyism, then surely you would say that the rules should be changed. Is that what you're saying?
I think we've got to relook at this because we've got a situation where confidence in the recently elected Prime Minister is collapsing because he stood on one platform and it turns out he's the biggest crony of all.
OK. Now, I want to talk to you about Nigel Farage's recent comments saying that he's not holding in-person surgeries in his constituency. He says it's because of security concerns. And look, you don't need me to tell you about how seriously security needs to be taken. We've seen that, obviously, in events in recent months. But I guess there is also a worry, isn't there, about whether you can really serve your constituents, if you're not meeting them in person. And many MPs are grappling with security concerns of their own as well. What would you say to people who, I guess, might be thinking, well, is this just Nigel Farage not wanting to do the difficult work?
Not at all. The real key work, the casework for constituents, I get probably a couple of hundred emails a day. And, many of those are from constituents who are concerned about important issues. They all get replies in a very timely fashion. And where we feel we can help, we try and help. That's the most important thing. I've done a number of surgeries, meeting lots of businesses. But look, he's probably equal with Boris Johnson, the most famous, in a sense, high-profile politician in this country. We saw during the election campaign, essentially 2 attacks on him. And he has to be incredibly careful. And he's responding to, I'm sure, very well-considered security advice from the excellent parliamentary security services. And that's just a fact of life that we have to deal with. But the key work for constituents is the casework. And I'm quite sure that Nigel and his team will be doing that, like all of us Reform MPs, in an exemplary fashion.
Do you hold in-person constituency surgeries in your own constituency?
Yes, I do. I've had a number. I enjoy them.
To you?
They're valuable to me. But the simple fact of life is, I'm not considered a security, in a sense, risk in the same way that Nigel is. It's it's just a sad fact of life. But nevertheless, I've had advice from the security services, and it's a case of each individual MP has to respond to that as they feel appropriate for them.
I do have one other question for you before we wrap up. Do you agree with Nigel Farage that Donald Trump will be proven right about migrants eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio?
Oh, I'm not. Frankly, I've got much more important things to do, worrying about my constituents in Boston and Skegness, how to improve Boston, than worrying about cats and dogs in Ohio. That may be important in America. Over here, I'm focusing on Boston and Skegness. I'm focusing on the appalling start this Labour government has made. I'm focusing on 22,000 furious, anxious pensioners wondering how they're going to get through the winter.
Do you think Nigel Farage should be focusing on that then, rather than what's happening or not happening?
Nigel's a very busy, successful person, and he will focus on everything that he considers appropriate at the time. If you want something done, Sophie, give it to a busy, successful person. Much more likely to be done than not.
Thanks for the advice. Thank you very much. Richard Tice, thank you.